morning, everyone. Nevada is the 9th most fastest growing state in the nation. Part of that includes 40% of the population that is coming to Nevada is senior citizens. That makes Nevada particularly vulnerable to healthcare fraud. 1 out of every 5 Nevada residents has indicated mental health issues. We have a serious mental health crisis in Nevada, again, making our mental health communities vulnerable to fraud. Hospice fraud and behavioral health fraud are the 2 most prevalent types of fraud that exist in the healthcare industry in Nevada. What we have when we deal with fraud are 3 issues. It deals with patient neglect, false claims, and kickbacks. Just this past year in Nevada, we have secured indictments in the amount of $94 million for, again, amniotic wound allografts.
There you have it. If you have any feedback on our show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at news.today@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Stephanie Cox. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump threatening to pull U.S. troops out of Germany as he says NATO nations continue to fall short on helping with Iran, and the president warning that Iran better get smart soon, saying further potential strikes depend on ongoing talks. For a second day on Capitol Hill, Pete Hegseth defends U.S. military action on Iran, calling it stunningly effective, while facing sharp questions from lawmakers. A magistrate judge blocks the government today from presenting extensive evidence against Cole Allen, the man accused of attempting to assassinate the president. She said it would be inappropriate. Arlene Richards has the explanation. House lawmakers pass a bill to fund the Department of Homeland Security. The legislation now needs President Trump's signature. A grand jury indicts a New Orleans sheriff after a massive jailbreak, 10 inmates escaping and sparking a weeks-long manhunt. Flying this summer could get easier. The Transportation Security Administration is offering a discount on pre-check memberships for travelers under 30.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. President Trump threatening to pull U.S. troops out of Germany as he condemns NATO nations for their refusal to help during Operation Epic Fury. It comes as the president refuses to lift the U.S.'s naval blockade on Iranian ports, telling the regime to get smart soon. NTD's White House correspondent Mari Otsu has the details.
The U.S., more than 20% of their active duty troops overseas are actually based in Germany. That's over 35,000 troops. And President Trump is now threatening to reduce that number over a spar he's having with the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The president is posting, quote, "The United States is studying and reviewing the possible reduction of troops in Germany with a determination to be made over the next short period of time." And, Steph, this is coming as the president is condemning the German Chancellor, who recently said that the Iranian regime is, quote, "humiliating the United States states during Operation Epic Fury. President Trump saying in response, quote, "The Chancellor of Germany should spend more time on ending the war with Russia-Ukraine and fixing his broken country, especially immigration and energy, and less time on interfering with those that are getting rid of the Iran nuclear threat, thereby making the world, including Germany, a safer place." President Trump also saying that Merz, quote, "thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon." And this is all coming as President Trump is renewing his criticism over the NATO alliance more broadly for their lack of support during Operation Epic Fury. Take a look.
But I was very disappointed with the fact that when we called on them to give us a little hand, we didn't need it. I actually did it just to see whether or not they'd be there. When we called on NATO to give us a hand with Ukraine and in particular the most recent, we asked them to do certain things on Ukraine, and we also wanted them to do things with Iran. And on Iran, they weren't there. As you know it better than anybody, they weren't there.
President Trump is refusing to lift the U.S.'s naval blockade on Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz until he says they reach a nuclear deal. And this is coming as the president continues to reiterate that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. And as he says, the U.S. is currently in, quote, telephone talks with the regime, saying that a potential new wave of strikes is dependent on how those talks go. Take a look.
You think another wave of strikes will be necessary?
I don't know. It depends. We have talks. We're having talks with them now, and we're not flying anymore with 18-hour flights every time we want to see a piece of paper. We're doing it telephonically.
President Trump announcing Iran can't get their act together. They don't know how to sign a non-nuclear deal. They better get smart soon. With an edited image of himself holding a machine gun with explosions in the background declaring, "No, Mr. Nice Guy." This comes as the president says he's going to keep Tehran under a naval blockade until the regime agrees to a deal that addresses concerns about its nuclear program.
Now they have to cry uncle. That's all they have to do. Just say, "We give up. We give up." Well, the blockade is genius, okay? The blockade has been 100% foolproof. It shows how good our Navy is, I can tell you that. Nobody's going to play games.
This move comes as Tehran's economy is struggling, with experts estimating that the regime has at most between 12 to 22 days of oil storage left, with nowhere to dispatch its crude under the blockade. According to Iran's central bank, the annual inflation rate has reached 67% through mid-April.
And in addition, their economy is crashing. As you know, their money, they call it their money. They don't have a name for it. Their money is valueless. They've got inflation that nobody's ever seen before.
Also, as part of Operation Economic Fury, the Treasury is targeting the Chinese regime's independent teapot refineries, which provide a critical financial lifeline to Iran by buying about 90% of its oil exports. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying Iran's oil industry is starting to shut in production thanks to the blockade, and that the regime will soon see gas shortages.
The retirement funds that they thought that they had outside of Iran, we are freezing. We're holding those for the Iranian people. Same with all their villas in the south of France and all over the world. And we are going to track them down, and we are going to continue the economic pressure as well as the block on the Strait of Hormuz.
Global oil prices are pulling back after briefly surging to a 4-year high, highlighting continued volatility in energy markets. Brent crude climbed above $126 a barrel before retreating to below $114. At the same time, the global energy landscape is shifting. Earlier this week, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, known as OPEC, lost one of its key members as the United Arab Emirates announced it would exit the group to focus on its own economic priorities. Here's White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett reacting to the price swings. Take a listen.
The price of gasoline, of course, is very, very high. We expect that that's a temporary phenomenon. Our expectation is that the straits will be open soon, and when that happens, that there's a heck of a lot of excess capacity that OPEC has been constraining that can come through the Gulf. We're more optimistic even than futures markets because we've started to account for the fact that UAE left OPEC, and they have a massive amount of excess capacity. They can turn the knobs up to 100% right away, and that will have a huge effect on oil prices around the world.
For a second day, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane are testifying on Capitol Hill. In his opening statement before the Senate Armed Services Committee, Hegseth said President Trump is determined to ensure Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon and that its nuclear threats never succeed. The secretary adding that the U.S. has the best negotiator in the world working on a deal. He also remarked on what he considers challenging.
The biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless naysayers and defeatist words of congressional Democrats and some Republicans. Defeatists from the cheap seats who 2 months in seek to undermine the incredible efforts that have been undertaken and the historic nature of taking on a 47-year threat with the courage no other president has had, to great success and great opportunity for preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon.
As Secretary Hegseth delivered his opening remarks, a protester interrupted the hearing. The individual was removed from the room. The secretary was also asked whether the U.S. achieved its goals in the Iran war.
The president said, "We will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. Military operations against Iran have not achieved that goal yet." And it also seems to indicate that his pronouncements about Operation Midnight Hammer obliterating the nuclear policy and structure of the Iranians was false. So you have not achieved any of the objectives yet that as the president mentioned.
Well, in this setting, I won't talk about the nature of metrics, which are classified, as you know, Senator, but I can say that looking at the objectives we set out to achieve from the beginning, some of which you laid out, our military objectives have been stunningly effective. Take, for example, their defense industrial base. They're completely incapable at scale at any level of reconstituting the capabilities you referred to, which is a devastating result for any country, especially one whose ambitions are as wide as Iran's. So we've put the president in a very strong position to ensure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. That's the takeaway that's been underneath every single aspect of this. For 47 years,
the discussion then shifted to internal Pentagon discussions and decisions, with questions over recent officer dismissals and the criteria behind them.
Of the 24 officers that you have fired for reasons unrelated to performance, since you have not indicated any cause, 60% are black or females. Now, did the president direct you to single out female and black officers to be dismissed?
Senator, of course not. And as we've emphasized at this department from the beginning, the only metric is merit. Members on this committee and the previous leadership of this department were focused on social engineering, race and gender in ways that we think were unhealthy for the department, focusing on those things, making decisions based on those things. Okay. In President Trump's War Department, we make decisions based on only one thing, merit. And that's how we've made decisions going forward. That's how we've made them, and that's how we'll make them going forward.
Let me go.
New economic data is in. The economy is showing solid momentum at the start of the year. Data from the Commerce Department shows gross domestic product grew at a 2% annual rate in the first quarter. That's a sharp increase from 0.5% in the previous quarter. Growth was driven by steady consumer spending, continued business investment, rising exports, and renewed government activity following last quarter's shutdown. The figures suggest the economy entered the Iran war on relatively strong footing. That was helped in part by larger tax returns and solid corporate earnings. The latest data suggesting the economy remains on stable ground even amid higher energy prices and global uncertainty over the Iran conflict. Markets have largely recovered after early volatility, and major indexes are near record highs. The United States became a net exporter of crude for the first time since World War II. Joining us now is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tressis, international financial analyst, and author of the book, The New Global Economic Order. So Daniel, good afternoon. So I want to talk to you about export of oil by the United States, but let me get your first reactions right now to 2.0% growth of the U.S. economy in the first quarter.
I think that the figures are really, really good because we have to put them in the context of where every other peer of the G8 countries is. And all of them are in stagnation. And I think that this is a very significant difference, is that the United States is the strongest economy out of all of its peers, Germany, France, Japan, the UK, Canada, etc. So I think that that is one of the important things. The other element is that the growth comes fundamentally from investment and consumption, which is a very significant difference compared to other economies where you see basically bloating government spending as the big driver. And the other element that I think is significant out of the data that came out today is the increase in personal income and the improvement in real wages. All of those elements show that the United States economy is improving in productivity and is creating a solid footing, considering that on top of that, the figure that came out in terms of jobless claims was the lowest since 1969. And I think that that is quite positive as well. So in general, with all of the challenges that inflation and other elements may bring, all of those show that the United States is, no question about it, the most prepared out of all of the G8 members.
All right, sounds like a lot of good news there. But besides that, the U.S. shipping a record volume of oil to refiners, and this is according to the Energy Information Administration. So, I mean, I think we can call it an economic milestone for the U.S. So can you speak to this, the importance of what happened?
Why is this so important? Number one, because the US has gone from being a shock amplifier in terms of geopolitical crisis to a shock absorber. Now, the United States is the biggest oil producer in the world, not the biggest oil importer in the world. It is also the largest exporter of petroleum products, including liquefied natural gas, but also of jet fuel and fertilizers. All these elements make the US economy a lot more resilient than in any other crisis. Very, very different from other environments, and also very different in terms of its relationship with the other economies of the world, because right now, every economy that is looking to guarantee supply and to improve their diversification of sources of supply is looking at the United States as the place that is going to deliver safe and reliable energy for the rest of the world.
Okay, so if other countries are looking at the U.S. for oil, what does that mean in terms of global power dynamics for the United States?
It's a big difference from 1973, 2008, 2018 even. The United States right now does not have to bow down to the challenges that may come from the Middle East, for example. We have seen how in the Middle East, the Emirates have decided to leave OPEC, how there's the Strait of Hormuz impact. All these things make a big, big difference, not only for the United States relative to, for example, the European Union, which is now the largest importer of US liquefied natural gas, for example, but also relative to the members of OPEC Plus and to China, which is going to have to increase the imports from the United States very soon.
So, Daniel, since you bring up the United Arab Emirates leaving OPEC, let me just quickly ask you then and get your opinion on this. Do you think this will be good for oil prices in the long term?
It is very good for oil prices in the long term. Let's remember that the Emirates have the highest level of surplus capacity that they're not putting in the market. No, they have about 4 million barrels a day of excess capacity. That is similar, slightly smaller than Saudi Arabia. And Emirates have been the biggest impacted by the quotas of OPEC, because historically what we have seen is that quotas were increased, but Emirates had to basically stop or at least reduce its exporting capacity. So now what we have is a new player that is likely to be, again, a shock absorber and able to put 1 to 3 million barrels a day of oil in the market very, very quickly. And think about this. In the middle of the Iran war, the fact that Emirates are looking at this situation and maybe increasing production quite quickly means that they can completely offset the exports of Iran in a relatively short period of time. All of that is likely to continue to reduce the geopolitical premium of oil prices. That doesn't mean that it's going to disappear. Obviously, markets behave in their own way, but it's likely to be a very significant positive development in the near future.
Okay, so of course, we can't have exports without domestic production, right? And U.S. crude oil production has been, hovering near record levels. Do you think this is one of the reasons why the U.S., amid this Iran war, is actually capable of sustaining the blockade on Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz?
A number of things. Obviously, this is a very significant one. A very significant one as well is the fact that the traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, basically around 80%, was going to Asia. And a very small proportion, less than 4%, was going to the United States. That is certainly an important factor. Another important factor, obviously, is that one of the reasons of that very low figure is that the United States is virtually independent in terms of energy, both in oil with Canada and Mexico, but also in terms of liquefied natural gas and natural gas production, which it is clearly a big producer, the biggest producer in the world, and independent. And this is a critical element because we have seen how, for example, in the European Union, natural gas prices have risen by more than 50%. In the United States, they have fallen by 20%. Those are also elements that support the U.S. economy.
Okay, just one final question, and this is about the new inflation data point that we received today. I think it was 3.5% personal expenditures price index. What is your reaction to this just finally?
Number one is that the Fed doesn't have a justification to hike rates. I think that is the most important one. The figures of inflation are relevant and a concern, but they come from a temporary factor, which is the energy component. The second one is that core PCE is exactly in line with estimates. And I think that is important because it's showing that the risk of persistent inflation is smaller than initially expected. I think that one of the important factors in this figure is that the US dollar strength, which has moved in tandem with oil prices, has been a significant element that reduces the impact of inflation in import prices. That doesn't mean that it's not something that needs to be addressed quickly, and obviously when supply chains start to move faster and the different shipping companies, etc., start to look for alternatives outside of the Strait of Hormuz, as every day happens, the flexibility of supply chains is delivering a new solution to a problem that has now become the biggest challenge for the Iranian economy itself.
Well, all right, Daniel, always enjoy hearing your insight. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Coming up, how prosecutors say poor oversight and broken infrastructure led to one of the largest jailbreaks in recent U.S. history. We'll tell you more about it after this break. Stay tuned.
That truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com. The 8th NTD International Piano Competition welcomes distinguished pianists from around the world, celebrating the depth, discipline, and expressive power of the Baroque, classical, and romantic repertoire. September 1st through the 5th, 2026, New York City. Apply at piano.ntdtv.com, honoring the timeless tradition of the piano.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyse it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs and selectspecs.com.
This is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy one, get two free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
Looking to refresh the style in your house? Come to Mathis Home during the Spring Style event and see hundreds of options for your perfect living room. Take a look at this sectional. We can help you build it into the style you want. From sleek and modern to something more eclectic to an updated traditional look. You can also reconfigure it just by adding or removing pieces. The sofa version is a great value at just $12.89. Come find the look that's right for you at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
House lawmakers yesterday breaking in an impasse on two important measures, funding for immigration enforcement and the renewal of the government's spy powers. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the report.
Late Wednesday night, the House approved the Senate-passed budget resolution. This now paves the way for committees to write up a bill to fund ICE and CBP for the rest of President Trump's term and ultimately pass it through Congress without any Democrat votes. Under this process, no reforms will be made to ICE policy. Republicans said they tried to level with Democrats to find a compromise on those reforms for weeks, but that Democrats wouldn't make a deal unless they got all of the reforms they wanted.
Republicans want to give $140 billion to ICE and Border Patrol. And these are agencies highly unpopular, unreformed with the American people.
The White House made reforms, we offered up reforms, and they kept moving the goalposts, walking away from it. It became very clear that their base was had convinced them that the only thing to do is to defund the police and to go back to the Biden open borders policy. That is effectively what this...
Now, Republicans are nearly midway through this plan where they'll fund immigration enforcement first and then next pass the bill to fund the rest of the DHS and end the partial government shutdown. Also in the House yesterday, lawmakers approved a controversial spy powers bill. A 3-year extension of Section 702 of FISA passed the House with bipartisan support, but it also needs to pass the Senate now. And at this point, it's unclear if that will happen before the government's spy powers lapse later today. 702 allows U.S. intelligence agencies to intercept communications of foreign nationals located outside of the United States, but sometimes Americans' data is caught up in those data sweeps. A group of senators, both Republicans and Democrats, led by Democrat Senator Ron Wyden, is urging others not to approve the spy powers bill without a warrant requirement.
In the case of Section 702, the government could use artificial intelligence to process huge amounts of data to identify Americans for warrantless searches. These technological advances are happening so fast, and the Congress needs to step up and protect Americans.
This warrant requirement was also a demand from several lawmakers in the House, but ultimately they conceded after other changes were made to strengthen government accountability. Another factor in the mix now is that House leadership, as a way to win over those holdouts, included a provision to ban any future central bank digital currency. Some are concerned that the government could use this to surveil American spending. Now, the fact that House leadership chose to include this in that FISA bill, it could also lead to some pushback from senators. Now, this all comes as the Trump administration has repeatedly urged Congress to pass Section 702 of FISA in order to keep operations running smoothly in Iran. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Louisiana is suspending next month's primary elections following a Supreme Court decision that invalidated a congressional map. Governor Jeff Landry and Louisiana Attorney General Liz Muriel said they are working with the legislature and the Secretary of State's office to move forward. In a 6-3 ruling yesterday, the Supreme Court found that Louisiana's 6th congressional district, represented by Democrat Cleo Fields, relied too heavily on race. The district stretches 200 miles across the state, linking parts of Shreveport, Alexandria, Lafayette, and Baton Rouge. A delegation of 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats currently represent Louisiana in the House of Representatives. Democrats need a net gain of 3 seats in November to win a majority in the House. At a detention hearing today, a magistrate judge forcefully denying the government's request to present evidence against Cole Allen, the man accused of attempting to assassinate the president. Allen agreed to remain in detention, so according to the judge, it would be insufficient to present evidence. NTD's Arlene Richards was inside the D.C. courtroom today and joining us now live. Arlene, what reason did the government give for waiting to present, for wanting to present their evidence?
Yeah, they basically said that they wanted to preserve the information just in case Cole Allen later on decided that he wanted to contest the detention. But the judge became immediately kind of irritated by that because she said, you're only going to have to present the evidence a second time and possibly to another judge. So it doesn't make any sense for you to present it today and then again present it, in the future. The prosecutor tried to push it anyway, but she refused to let him do it. So I think one of the reasons why he might have wanted to do it was because there was a packed courtroom today. There was attorneys, there was the media, there were federal agents, several members of the court personnel were there. And it would have been very impactful and compelling for them to present the evidence that they have filed so far in their papers. So I would just want to read off a few things that they probably would have presented. A 12-gauge shotgun with spent cartridges, 6 unfired cartridges attached to the shotgun, 10 unfired cartridges in small leather bag, a .38 caliber pistol loaded with 10 rounds of ammunition, and 2 additional handgun magazines. They also found emails with letters attached that he sent to his family, his friends, and his employer, basically apologizing for what he was about to do and stating that he was targeting President Trump and his cabinet members. There was also photographs of him taking a selfie with all of the different paraphernalia on his body. But the judge said it's just not going to happen today.
So, Arlene, why did Cole Allen agree to remain in detention?
Well, according to his attorney, they had just met with him pretty much for the first time about an hour before the hearing. They said that they had not had an opportunity to process any of the evidence that the prosecution turned over to them because they had just received it this morning. Cole Allen was there in the courtroom wearing a yellow jumpsuit. They did bring him in handcuffs, but they removed the handcuffs after that. He appeared to be very calm. And one of the other things that his attorney requested at that time was that he be removed from a 24-hour lockdown cell. She said that he wouldn't be a threat to any of the other prison members, and she couldn't understand why they were keeping him there. But the judge said she didn't really have the authority to make that decision on the fly, and she encouraged counsel to pretty much submit motion papers to give the prison an opportunity to respond, and then she said she would address it that way.
And Arlene, can you give us a sense of what happens next?
Well, they then discussed about the discovery. So what happens next is there's going to be a pretrial hearing on May 11th. And before that, she ordered the prosecution to turn over all evidence that they currently have or that they have up to that point over to the defense counsel so that they have an opportunity to review it before that hearing. And I expect that defense counsel will file that motion to try and get him removed from the 24-hour lockdown. Don, back to you.
All right, Arlene, thank you for keeping us updated. And the debate over rhetoric in the media continues. The National Religious Broadcasters Association has filed a complaint with the Federal Communications Commission over comments made on Jimmy Kimmel Live regarding First Lady Melania Trump. Comments Kimmel made before the shooting took place, calling her an expectant widow. Joining us now is Troy Miller, President and CEO of the National Religious Broadcasters Association. So Troy, so good to have you here. Good afternoon. So can you tell us more about this complaint here? What were the concerns raised in it?
Well, look, several things. First of all, there's been, so much of this rhetoric that has been behind the violence in our country. It's just the way we see it, these lone wolves sort of being triggered. You have this comment, and it's not in a vacuum. This was made in the context to the president's wife, who's had 2 assassination attempts, if not 3, against his life. And so we just think it's time for the FCC to look into and investigate this. And it's really time for celebrities, politicians, even those in the on the right, the left, to really tone down the rhetoric. And we think it's going to take an example to do that.
Okay, so to be precise, you're asking the FCC to start an investigation into what happened. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've asked them to start an investigation under their authority, what's called the public interest standard. They can look into this. And the Supreme Court has already, has precedent on this in cases that they've reviewed. You can't have the kind of speech that incites violence, calls for harm against another person, or immediate harm on somebody. We think Kimball's speech fits all 3 of those, but it's really going to be up to the Federal Communications Commission to decide this. And if they do find that it does fit all 3, then we say they should take the appropriate actions against Kimball's program and ABC.
Okay, so let me get a response from you on what Jimmy Kimmel said after his comment. He defended that quote-unquote joke. I mean, I didn't think it was that funny, but saying that it was about the age difference. What is your response to this?
Well, look, I know what he said. I know what the spin are, but I also have been in television a long time. These jokes aren't just off the cuff They've been reviewed with writers. They sit in the back room. It's off the script. If you wanted it to be interpreted as a joke about age, then you could have added some reference into it about age. But there was no reference to age in the joke. The joke was simply about the First Lady looking good for being an expectant widow. You could walk away from that saying that was implied. Well, we haven't gotten him yet, but we will. And so that's really for the FCC to make the call on. But I really don't buy Jimmy Kimball's spin on that this was about the president's age.
Okay, so what do you think should be the appropriate action by ABC? If we live in a perfect world, what should be the right action by ABC in light of this remark?
Well, that's up to ABC. But look, I think at a minimum, they should look at suspending Jimmy Kimmel. He should issue an apology for this. And the FCC has a number of tools in their toolkit, but usually this results in some sort of fine for that organization and for that program.
Okay,
but the clear thing is a message needs to be sent. We need to tone down this kind of rhetoric in the public discourse today. We've had too many attempts on the president, on other political leaders. We've had assaults on schools. All of them have led back to this kind of rhetoric, this kind of call for violence as the solution to our political differences today. And at some point, we have to stand up and say enough is enough.
Okay, can you elaborate on this, this idea of rhetoric? In your view, the suspected shooter's action is a product of radical rhetoric. Is that correct? And the White House press secretary also is saying that the language used in the manifesto of the suspect matches the rhetoric of media and other forums.
It almost looks like, what they haven't said it all out yet, but what I've seen so far, it looks like the talking points that are coming out of the left, And so we know that these, psychologists and experts will tell us that there are triggering mechanisms for these people. And when you have that ideology that you think that the other side is so evil that you need to step in and end a life, then we know that this has happened. We know it's going on in society. Society is more irreligious. It's more immoral today than it's been in American history. We have to take the right action. And the right action is to tone down, not just to tone down. We should be actively talking against this and tell people it is not right to take violent steps. It's not right to take action. We solve our problems by debate, by discourse, and through elections. We don't solve it by going armed to a dinner attempting to kill the president or other cabinet members or other opponents to our political views.
So, I mean, what is happening to our country, Troy? Because it's not just assassinations. I mean, they're already terrible, right? But school shootings, other types of shootings, what is going on?
Well, right. You've seen the same kind of ideology, the same thing in the manifest for those school shootings as well. You know, they've been conditioned to look at their opponents, not just as their opponents, but as actual combatant enemies. And that's what's going on. And a lot of it really has to do with we've really lost the moral footing of our country. We've lost that moral foundation. We have people today that are less biblically illiterate or more biblically illiterate than they were at the time of the founding of this country. And we have to get back to it. It has to start with our leaders. We have to start talking about the right and proper ways that we solve our problems. And violence is not one of those ways.
And it's my view that the further we stray away from the core moral values of this country, the harder it is to get back to where we were originally. So how do we do that? How do we stop this current trend, this trajectory, and find our moral footing again?
Yeah, look, you're right. The farther we get away, the more dangerous society is going to become, and the more violent societies we become. Look, it's really falls in a couple of different areas. First, it falls, as I said, in the public discourse. It really falls with the leaders, the influencers, the celebrities to step up and talk about this in a way that's not just opposing it, but just really to flat out say this is not the way. The second is we get back there because the pulpits of this country need to step up and talk about this. When we had a biblical moral foundation that this country operated on, we didn't have these kinds of issues today. So I really say a lot of it, the onus is on us as Christian communicators, as Christian pastors, to really step up and be a part of the dialogue, to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. We need to call people back. I'm really happy that the president on May 17th is going to call the country back to a rededication, to a time of that founding of the country when we really were setting on the foundation of morality, Judeo-Christian morality, and we were setting on that foundation of a faith people who understood that life was precious.
Okay, Troy, let me just try to end on a note of hope. Is there anything that you see in society right now that gives you a lot of hope that, you know, not everything is lost, that we can go back to where we were?
I'll tell you the biggest hope I have is the numbers we see coming out of Gen Z, the numbers of that generation that are going back to church, the numbers that hold family in a high regard. They want to be a parent. They want to raise a family. They want to get back into understanding faith, and they want to have real proper relationships with people and not these superficial. So I have a lot of hope of what we're seeing in the Gen Z today.
Well, all right, Troy, pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Justice Department's Civil Rights Division is investigating dozens of cities for allegedly providing homelessness services based on race, sexual identity, and other criteria. We have more news after this break. Stay tuned.
Sweetie, are you ready to go?
In a sec.
Do you think Granny will like this?
Of course she will.
Let's go.
Hello. Hi. So good to see you. Come in, come in, come in.
Mom, thank you for everything.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is so beautiful. I love the color. Oh my gosh, the leather. Thank you so much. Mom, thank you for everything.
Oh, wow. It's like matches.
It's adorable.
Are you sitting at home living in pain?
Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy 1, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
The Justice Department's Civil Rights Division is investigating dozens of cities for allegedly providing homelessness services based on race, sexual identity, and other criteria. The probe follows a report from the Washington Free Beacon that identified preferential policies in Oregon. The news outlet obtained a formula that Multnomah County uses to provide services to the homeless. According to the report, the county, which includes Portland, uses a point system to prioritize potential recipients. The Washington Free Beacon published the rubric in its report, which shows how points are allocated. The report also cited a frequently asked question document from the county's Homeless Services Department. According to the sheet, the county's system prioritizes Black, Indigenous, and people of color, as well as individuals who identify as LGBT. The Washington Free Beacon also similar policies were found in dozens of cities across several other states. The state of Texas has filed a lawsuit against a Houston area so-called birth tourism operation. The Texas Attorney General's office says the setup has claimed responsibility for 1,000+ American-born babies. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the allegations. We'll bring it to you a bit later, but first, we have news about a grand jury indicting a New Orleans sheriff over a 2025 jailbreak. 10 inmates escaped from a New Orleans jail in the incident, triggering a weeks-long manhunt. Prosecutors say Sheriff Susan Hudson was not directly involved in the escape, but they allege poor management and failure to follow basic procedures helped make it possible. Louisiana's Attorney General says Hudson's actions, or lack of actions, enabled one of the largest jailbreaks in recent U.S. history. Authorities say the inmates exploited faulty infrastructure, breaking through a cell door. They then escaped through a hole behind a toilet and climbed a barbed wire fence while supervision was lacking. Staff did not realize the inmates were missing until hours later during a morning head count. Maine Governor Janet Mills is suspending her campaign for Senate. The two-term governor said she dropped out of the race due to a lack of funding. Mills was seen as one of the Democrats' top picks for Senate when she entered the race last year. The governor had the backing of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and other Democrats hoping to unseat Republican Senator Susan Collins. Mills has been competing against first-time candidate Graham Plattner. Plattner has been endorsed by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Ruben Galeo of Arizona, and Martin Henrik of New Mexico. Democrats need a net gain of 4 seats in November's midterm elections to win control of the Senate. The South is bracing for more storms after 2 tornadoes caused destruction in Texas. Forecasters say thunderstorms continue across Texas, the southern plains, and lower Mississippi River Valley with lingering flash flood threat. Widespread persistent rainfall is forecast in Texas and parts of the southern plains today. At least 7 tornadoes touched down across 3 states on Tuesday. Officials say a tornado with winds of at least 120 miles per hour ripped through mineral wells in Texas. The tornado flattened manufacturing buildings and tore roofs from homes, with the team still investigating the extent of the damage. Officials said yesterday that 5 people were taken to a hospital with injuries. The city's mayor said she's grateful and amazed that no one was killed. The first direct commercial flight between the United States and Venezuela in 7 years is scheduled to land in Caracas today. The flight comes after the Department of Homeland Security ordered a suspension in 2019 due to security concerns. The American Airlines flight, operated by subsidiary Envoy Air, was scheduled to depart from Miami this morning. The plane is expected to arrive 3 hours later in the Venezuelan capital before returning to Florida later this afternoon. The resumption of a commercial flight between the 2 countries follows the U.S. capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in January. The U.S. has since reopened its embassy in Caracas, resuming full diplomatic relations with Venezuela. A second daily flight between Miami and Caracas will start on May 21st. The state of Texas has filed a lawsuit against the Houston area so-called birth tourism operation. The Texas Attorney General's office says the setup has claimed responsibility for 1,000+ American-born babies. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the allegations.
The suit alleges the operation helped foreign nationals, primarily from China, travel to Texas to give birth and secure U.S. citizenship for their children. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says the scheme violates immigration laws. Paxton called birthright citizenship a scam that threatens national security and vowed to, quote, do everything in my power to stop unlawful birth tourism schemes like this one. Investigators say the operation ran across multiple properties in the Houston area. The facilities housed multiple families at once and, according to the state, were capable of facilitating a high volume of births tied to the business, up to 20 births a day. The DeI Postpartum Care Center, named in the complaint, does not appear to have a website. A message left at the center's phone number was not immediately returned yesterday. The Texas Attorney General's office accused the center of coaching clients on how to navigate immigration procedures and evade immigration laws when seeking visas and citizenship for themselves and their child. The coaching allegedly included encouraging Chinese nationals to enter or remain in the United States while concealing that the primary purpose of their travel was to give birth, something Paxton's office says is unlawful. The Attorney General's office says the operators were aware that U.S. visas were not allowed for birth tourism. It adds that just last week, the center acknowledged the federal government is strictly policing the practice and advised women to apply for visas before pregnancy to avoid detection. The lawsuit also claims families can spend tens of thousands of dollars on the center's services. It notes that once a child born there turns 21, they can petition for permanent residency for their parents and siblings. Marketing for the industry, according to the lawsuit, is done through social media platforms, private messaging applications, word of mouth, and via Chinese websites or behind private and state-sponsored firewalls. Since 2020, tourist visas can be denied if officials determine the primary purpose of travel is to give birth in the United States to obtain citizenship for a child. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
President Trump is signing an executive order aimed at expanding access to retirement savings accounts. The order targets Americans who don't currently have employer-provided retirement plans. Let's take a look.
This afternoon, I'm thrilled to sign a historic executive order expanding access to high-quality retirement savings accounts for millions of Americans. In my State of the Union earlier this year, I promised to make the same types of retirement accounts enjoyed by the federal employees available to all Americans. So that's what we're doing. It only seemed fair. It's really a tremendous situation for all Americans. That was really much promises made, as I say, promises kept. I'm thrilled to be joined by incredible people that I know and the warriors. Jason Smith, these are Congress people. Brian Stile, Mike Carey, Lloyd Smucker, Bill Heisinger, Ryan McKenzie, John McGuire, Zach Nunn, Derek Van Orden, Jeff Crank, Nick Begich, Monica De La Cruz, and Mike Lawler. Warriors, every one of them, they're great people. They fought very hard for what we're about to sign. And since my election, the stock market has set 59, this is in a little bit more than a year, 59 all-time record highs, adding $9 trillion in value to really the value of our country, if you think about it. Under 4 years of Biden, the average 401k rose at a rate of just $875 a year. Last year, under Trump, the average 401k balance was up $24,000. So $875 versus $24,000, I would say that's pretty good. This is really incredible. The numbers are incredible. The numbers being invested in our country are more incredible than anything. You see it. There are plants being built all over the USA. We have auto plants, not just AI. AI is doing great. We're leading China by quite a bit. But we have auto plants being built all over the country. They're coming back from Canada. They're coming back from Mexico, Germany, Japan, South Korea. Wherever they build autos, they're coming here. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. The union loves me. You know, I did very well with the auto workers, but they like me a lot more now than they did when I was just talking about it. Beginning at the start of next year, every American will be able to go to TrumpIRA.gov and open a new low-cost IRA account. You'll then be able to access the same type of retirement accounts that federal employees enjoy through the thrift savings plans, which are incredible. As part of the Federal Savers Match Program, low-income Americans will be eligible to receive up to $1,000 per year in matching funds deposited directly into their accounts. It's a great thing. For millions of Americans who lack employer-sponsored plans, this will be really revolutionary because they'll be covered. Nobody thought that was possible. For example, if a 25-year-old who is eligible for a Savers Match Program invest just $165 a month under the matching federal contributions, they will have an estimated $465,000 in their account by the time they're 65 years old. In other words, they'll be rich. And there's something awfully nice about that. But this is only the first step. I was talking to Kevin Hassett a little while ago, and the people standing right behind me, we're going to take it to the next level. And the next level, Kevin, you're going to mention something, but the next level will be necessary to have congressional approval. What you just heard, we don't need congressional approval. And it'll never be terminated, because to terminate it, if somebody else is in office, to terminate it, you'd have to take that money away. You'd have to really take away something that's so positive. I don't think any politician would do it. But to take it to the next level, we need congressional approval, which should be very easy to get. It should be bipartisan. Normally it would be bipartisan, but today, nothing's bipartisan, right? I mean, it should be something that everybody supports. So, Kevin, before we start, maybe you could just explain what we're talking about for the next level.
Right. So for the next level, sir, what we're already talking, Chairman Smith and I about, and I've been talking with Mr. Smucker about this for a number of years, is that we're going to expand this program that you're creating here, which is for low-income people, to middle income people and maybe above as well, so that every American, most high-income people have an employer that gives them a 401k with a match, but low-income people or Uber drivers or something, they don't have access to that. They don't have access to the match. What you've done here is you've given the match to low-income people with incomes below $35,000. But we think that there are a lot of people, even who make more than that don't have many assets for retirement. And so we're working with Congress to significantly expand this program, and we're looking forward for legislation this year to expand this.
And also the Trump accounts, you remember, with Michael Dell and Susan and the group that we had, are setting records.
We have
the numbers.
5 million signups right now, sir.
5 million signups in a short period of time. Far above what we thought even possible. So congratulations to everybody that got that started. Michael Dell put in $6.25 billion. That's a lot. He put in a lot of money, and he's going to do more too. But they were very responsible. So I just want to let you know it's like record. Nobody, you are even surprised by that number, I think, right? I don't know if we can do that kind, but it's really way beyond what anyone thought. It's great. And we're going to be doing the same thing, I guess, in a certain way for older people. We're going with a plan that if it works, has to get approved by Congress, but we think it'll get approved. It'll be fantastic for the country. Let's go. Will, do you want to start? Sure. There's some other things, and we thought we'd let these great people from Congress and beyond, or below, I guess I could say.
So first, sir, this is the IRA executive order that you just mentioned.
Okay.
This establishes the retirement accounts with the federal match for eligible people, as you said in your speech and as Kevin explained. This is a big step forward. It's going to provide access to high-quality retirement accounts to a lot of Americans who don't currently have access to such accounts.
Okay. There it is. That's nice. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll do some that aren't associated with this, and then we'll talk about this with the press. You'll ask some questions of the Congress people, okay? Because they were really responsible for this. All right?
Yes.
Who would like to hold that? Popular guy. Okay, let's go.
This is a presidential permit authorizing the Bridger pipeline, sir. This is a transborder pipeline similar to the old Keystone XL pipeline. It will significantly expand our ability to move oil around North America, oil and gas around North America. It's a huge deal in terms of long-term energy dominance and energy security.
Slightly different than the last administration.
Very different than the last
They wouldn't sign a pipeline deal, and we have pipelines going up. And by the way, they're way underground. They're not a problem. Nobody even knows they're there. It's so crazy, but they wouldn't approve anything having to do with the pipeline, and they're great. As opposed to trucking it or training it, they're great. A lot of jobs, too. A lot of jobs. Okay, very good. Next.
This is an executive order on federal contracting, sir. Many federal contracts currently operate on a cost-plus basis. This provides oftentimes weird incentives for contractors, leads to cost overruns, costs the federal government a lot of money. What this executive order does is it establishes a fixed price contract as the default in most federal contracts. This aligns the federal government with what would typically exist in the private sector, and we believe will continue to drive down fraud and abuse in federal contracting government-wide.
Would anybody like to object to this?
No, absolutely not.
You're fighting for this one, too. Okay, thank you. Next.
You previously announced that we were withdrawing Casey Means as the Surgeon General, sir, and appointing Dr. Safir, or nominating Dr. Safir in her place.
Yeah.
That on the left is the withdrawal, which will later be transmitted to the Senate.
Okay.
And on the right is the new nomination form for our new Surgeon General.
Nicole Sapphire, she's with Fox, was with Fox. Is it with Fox anymore, Peter? But she's great. She'll be the Surgeon General.
I believe she's with Memorial Sloan Kettering in New Jersey, sir, and she's an outstanding doctor.
She is. I just don't know how Biden used the auto pen. There's so many things to sign. He'd say, here, please take this. It's crazy. All 4 years was crazy. Okay. Let's not bring it up. She's going to be great. Surgeon General. Thank you.
This is a proclamation declaring this weekend to be National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend. Awesome. As you know, firefighters do an incredibly difficult, dangerous job, help keep us all safe. This is a proclamation honoring their sacrifice and remembering those who have fallen.
Great. Everybody likes that?
You bet.
Okay. Firefighters.
That one deserves it. Lastly, sir, this is another proclamation. Your administration, particularly the First Lady, have made foster and adoptive care major priorities. This is a proclamation declaring National Foster Care Month, honoring those who have participated in foster programs, who have helped raise foster children, and speaking about the many things that your administration, including the First Lady's office, have done on that set of issues.
Yeah, it's been a big thing for the First Lady, so this is in honor of our First Lady.
Well said.
People to go into, small businesses that might be reluctant earlier, for IRA, to have their IRA. This is going to, help give them.
I'll tell you, small businesses now are thriving. And as you know, more people are working right now than at any time in the history of our country. We're doing great. And there's more investment being made in the United States than any country at any time in history. And a lot of that's AI, and a lot of that's maybe in a certain way, maybe more importantly, auto plants are all coming back to our country. They're coming back from different countries where they left us, for Germany, as you know, and Japan, and South Korea, and Canada, Mexico. And they're all coming back at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And tariffs did it. I did it. Maybe the election did it, but tariffs did it. And if they build here, they don't have to pay tariffs. We have Germany is giving a lot of companies are coming in from Germany, from Japan. Japan just announced $10 billion more plants going to be built between Toyota and Honda and all the different companies they're pouring into our country. In South Korea, Canada, they're coming in. I don't know what they're doing, but I can tell you they're coming in tremendously from Canada. There's no reason they don't want to pay the tariff, and because of that, they're investing at levels never seen before. We will, for 30 years we virtually didn't build an auto plant in this country, and now we're doing more than we've ever done. So I'm very proud of that. AI is going wild. We're doing great, and we're letting them build their own electric, but we're actually making them build their own electric plant, so they take tremendous amounts of energy to have a successful plant, and they're building all of the new ones are building their own electric plant, like a utility, and any extra they'll either give it or sell it for a good price to local communities and to the grid. So it's going to be fantastic. But we have tremendous amounts of factories being built in our country now, more than we've ever had at any time ever before. And we have the biggest investment being made in our country. In the history of our country, by the way, in the history of any country, there's never been a country that has the kind of investment coming in that we have right now. And these things are being built right now. So you're not going to see the results. I mean, you see construction results. You notice the construction workers are through the roof. But when they open, the numbers are going to be staggering. Do you have a question?
I certainly do. Thank you, Mr. President. You had some good economic news, GDP, 2% growth.
Yeah.
New orders for business equipment surged to the highest level in 6 years. And IRS data shows that the average federal tax return is up by more than 11% when you compare it to the same time as last year. Do you believe that this is evidence?
Over 100%.
Do you believe that this is evidence that the big, beautiful tax cuts that you signed into law last year are working? And do you think the economy is going to continue to hum as the year progresses?
Yeah, thank you. So the biggest tax cut in history is in the great, big, beautiful bill. And I think, I see it. I actually see it reported where people are shocked at how much money they're making. They can't believe the refunds that they're making. 5,000, 6,000, 7, 8, 9. I saw one last night on television, 11,000 more than she thought she was going to get. And it's no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors, no tax on social. Nobody can believe it even. And the numbers are far greater than they thought. People that thought they were going to make an extra $500, turns out they're making an extra $5,000. So it's been really great, yeah. And that's going to carry forward. Look, the country's doing really well. And that's despite a military operation. I don't call it a war. Would you rather have a military operation? Where really, Iran is dying to make a deal. I can only tell you that. I don't want to get into it, but they cannot be nuclear other than that. But their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone. Every ounce of any form of equipment practically is gone. Their drone factories are about 82% down, and their missile factories are almost 90% down. And many of their missiles have been knocked out. They used some, but we knocked out more than they used. And it's pretty amazing what's happened. They want to make a deal. But despite the fact that we are in what some people would call a war, we just hit a new high today on the stock market. We have S&P is through the roof. They're through the roof. And, when we hit 50,000 on the Dow and 7,000 on the S&P, I said to myself, we got to do something about Iran. They want to have a nuclear weapon. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. And I hated to do it to my people because they said 50,000. Peter, you know this, that 50,000 wouldn't be obtainable in my 4 years or anybody's 4 years. And we hit 50,000 in my first year, the end of my first year. We hit 7,000 on the S&P. They said that would be even less attainable. And we hit that at the end of the first year, before the year was up. And then I said to Kevin, sorry about this, Kevin, but we have to put out a fire. And the fire is taking place in the lovely country of Iran. And they want to have a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't use this beautiful, see that plane right there? That beautiful B-2 bomber. It looks small there, but it's actually quite, it doesn't look very powerful there, but it's quite large, actually. We ordered 25 more of them, the updated version, all built in America, which is very nice, right? But if we didn't have that B-2 bomber, if we didn't go in and do what we did, we obliterated that nuclear capacity of theirs, and so they didn't get the nuclear bomb. If we didn't do that attack, should have been done long before I came along by other presidents or by another country or something, but it should have been done long before I came along. But they are in very bad shape, and they've got nothing going, including leadership. I mean, their leaders are gone. Now they have a whole new, their first string leaders are gone, their second string leaders are gone. Now we're dealing with their third string. But we'll see what happens. It's been an amazing period of time between Venezuela and where we're doing great. We're getting along with them great. We're working very closely with them. They're doing more oil now than they've done in many, many decades, actually. And they're making more money, and so are we. It's like a joint venture, to be honest. And we've paid for the attack many times over. The attack, something you've never heard before, probably. I always used to say to the victor, belong the spoils. But we've paid for the attack, which is always expensive. But it was a less than 1 day attack. It was actually a 45-minute attack. And that's a good, they have a good military in Venezuela, but they did not expect that and that and that and that. Other than that. But when these suckers come at you at 2,500 miles an hour, at 25 feet off the ground, you say, this is not what I bargained for. This is no good. Anyway, and now, Venezuela was amazing, but now we're doing, essentially, it's larger, but we're doing essentially the same thing in Iran. Can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And their economy is crashing. The blockade is incredible. The power of the blockade is incredible. They're not getting any money from oil. And hopefully it can be worked out very soon. Yeah.
Iran is proving to be very stubborn. The talks seem like they are stalled. Are you getting antsy to break the ceasefire?
Well, I mean, I don't know what stubborn is, because really nobody knows what the talks are except myself and a couple of other people. They want to make a deal badly. We have a problem because nobody knows for sure who the leaders are. It's a little bit of a problem, The leaders have been wiped out along with their military, almost all of their military. I mean, think of it. 159 ships was their total Navy. 159 ships are gone. They're underwater. They're way below sea level. Sea level is a big difference. Pretty deep waters over there, too. So, I don't know that we need it. We might need it.
And on Iran, a little while ago, the president of FIFA said that when the World Cup is here in the U.S., the team from Iran will be playing in the games.
Well, if Johnny said it, I'm okay. Did Johnny say it?
He did. What if they
Johnny
win?
Infantino, that's a piece of work.
What if they win?
Well, if they win, we'll have to worry about that. That's not. I'm going to have to worry about that one. Look, you know what? Let him play well. Johnny's fantastic. You know, he's a friend of mine, and he talked about it. I said, you do whatever you want. You can have him. You don't have to have him. Probably have a good team. I don't know. Do they have a good team? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
Would be hard to believe, actually. But I think let him play. Right?
This is a little bit different, but what is your take on these reports that your show, The Apprentice, is going to could come back on Amazon with host Donald Trump Jr.?
Well, I've been hearing it. Look, we had a great success, 14 seasons, and The Apprentice was a tremendous success. So I've been hearing that, you know, a little bit. So we'll see what happens. He's good. He's a good guy. He'd be probably good. He's got a little charisma going. You need a little charisma for that soccer match. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, they told me about it. We'll see.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. There's been some talks about changes to your security after what took place.
Changing my security.
Changing your security after what took place.
Well, they did a pretty good job, actually. You know, they stopped the NFL running back. I mean, he was like a running back. In fact, if he ever got out, they're probably going to sign him. He was a speedy guy, but he was stopped. They had many levels in front of him before he would even come to us. You know, you could be a baseball team and win 19-0, and somebody could say, you should have won 21. You should have gotten 25 runs. The team was no good or something. So I don't know. I can only say that I know a lot of those people at Secret Service, and they were good and they were forceful. And I saw the guys in front of me. They were powerful-looking guys. I said we could send them to Hollywood. They could make movies. I think that there's always room for improvement, right? And he got into the building. The problem is I know that's what I do. I build buildings like that. Much nicer, actually, but I build buildings like that. And, you know, when you have 1,000 rooms sitting on top of a ballroom and you have the elevators coming down right near the entrance, it's a pretty tough situation. Now, right outside, we have something that's on time, on budget, actually ahead of time, ahead of budget depending on finishes. You know, finishes is a big difference between marble and onyx in price, but it's right on budget, right on time. And that's built to the highest standards of security. No units on top, no hotel built on top where an elevator comes right down through the middle of it. It's a tough location. That's a tough location. So I think I know the people at Secret Service. I think they're great, and I think the Congress has to take care of those people. You know, we're talking about ICE, we're talking about Border Patrol, Secret Service. Everyone is. The Democrats essentially want to defund the police. Just so you know, they want to defund law enforcement. It's crazy. These people have gone crazy. I heard Hakeem Jeffries, a low IQ person. He's a very low IQ, screaming today that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. I mean, that's a dangerous statement. Then if I say something modest, they say, oh, he's a king, he's a king. They're sick. But Hakeem Jeffries said the Supreme Court is illegitimate. That's a rough statement. If I made that statement, it would be the biggest story out there. Bad things would happen.
One of the ideas.
The average price of a gallon of gas is now $4.30
All right,
in this country.
And you know what? And we're not going to have a nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran. The gas will go down. As soon as the war's over, it'll drop like a rock. There's so much of it. It's all over the place, sitting all over the oceans of the world. And it'll go down. But what won't happen is if Iran had a nuclear weapon and used it, then the whole world is a different place.
What about
You're not going to have to pay a little bit more for gasoline. The gasoline, the oil will go down rapidly as soon as the war is over.
Good to see you again, sir. I've got two questions. The first, I want to follow up on Daniel's question. I've described you as the peacemaker. You're achieving peace around the world. Due to these latest policies, big beautiful bill, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, now the Trump account, and then the IRA account, could we describe you as the wealth maker?
Well, I'm helping people out. It's a nice question, actually, but I'm helping people. These people are with me. You know, these are great people, and feel free to speak up if you'd like, because they wanted this to happen, and we got it done. And they're Republican people, I think, in all cases, right? In all cases. It's crazy. We need, like, always unanimous, because the Democrats, they will vote against anything, no matter how good. If they had their favorite thing in the world, and we happen to want it, but we found a new strategy. We're going to oppose every single thing that we want, and we'll get unanimous votes. So I'm going to come up and oppose everything, Brian, from this point forward. And they'll vote for it. Go ahead.
Second question. You created Space Force on the second end, towards the end of your first administration. Right. You just had the Artemis II crew in here. I know it's a big accomplishment. What do you see moving forward, the duration of your administration in terms of space exploration? I know that was a big moment for you.
Well, doing Space Force I think it's going to go down as one of my more important things. It's turning out, even a lot of these great military operations that we have right now, when you look at Venezuela, when you look at like the decimation of Iran, which was considered powerful, it was the bully of the Middle East. And a lot of that took place so effectively because of what's coming out of space. When we did Space Force, when I did Space Force, I'm very proud of it, space was like, we were third. China was first. Russia was second. Now we've leapfrogged. We're way ahead of China. We're way ahead of Russia. And we made some great choices. The first person that headed Space Force, and really after that we had a couple of really great people heading it. Always very important. And a new person is heading it now. I think he has a chance to be as good as anybody, as good as, maybe better, I don't know. But we've had great people heading up Space Force. It's been very important. It's been very important for what we're doing with respect to the different places. And as far as peace, I settled 8 wars. And people try and dispute it, but then they go over them. And almost in every case, they sent letters thanking me and letters to the Nobel Committee. I don't care about that. Maria was very nice. She gave me her Nobel Peace Prize because she said she didn't deserve it. She was very, very nice. But I settled 8 wars. And in every case, the people, the prime ministers or presidents wrote letters thanking me. And in the case of India, look, the biggest one would have been Pakistan, India. The prime minister of Pakistan said, I saved from 30 to 50 million lives, but it could have been more than that. 2 nuclear nations were going at it. 11 airplanes were shot down. They were in the first week of what would have been a very bad war, and I got it solved. You know how I got it solved? By the use of tariffs. I said, I'm going to charge you tariffs if you guys keep fighting. And they said, oh, please don't do that.
You just lifted some tariffs, right? You just lifted some tariffs on whiskey? Is that correct?
Yeah, what I'm doing is for as long as I've been here, they've wanted to, you know, Kentucky, which is a great place. And I also won, Jason, by a lot. But Kentucky, with the bourbon, and Scotland with the whiskey, and they've had trade for years and years and years, and a lot of restrictions, a lot of different restrictions took place that didn't amount to much, and it really stopped them. I don't know if you know, it's a barrel trade. They use the barrels from the one to take care of the other, and the barrels are only good for one unit. In other words, they can't be used twice. They can only be used once, but the once makes it a better substance. I'm not a big drinker, so forgive me. But it makes them a big substance and a better taste. But they dealt for years. This was Scotland and Kentucky, mostly Kentucky. And I just took all the restrictions off. So Scotland and Kentucky can start dealing again. And I did it in honor of the king and queen who just left. They're heading back. And it was a big deal. They've been trying to get this for a long time.
Yes, you talked about possibly pulling out some troops out of Germany. Would you be considering the same thing for Spain and Italy? I mean, they haven't been exactly on board.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I probably will. Why should I? You know, look, why shouldn't I? Italy has not been of any help to us. And Spain has been horrible, absolutely horrible. You know, it's NATO. It's not even the fact that they're bad. It's one thing if they said nicely, or if they said, okay, we'll help, but the help's a little slow. But the level, and we helped them with Ukraine. You know, they made a mess out of Ukraine, a total mess. And we helped them with Ukraine. Ukraine has nothing to do, you know, we're an ocean apart. It has to do with them. It's like for them, it's their front door. We help them. And Biden gave them $350 billion, which was insane. It's one of the reasons the war went on. But when we needed them, they were not there. We have to remember that. And so if we ever have a big one, because we didn't need any help with Iran. We had Iran right from the first day it was over. It was over. And now it's even more so. We're so locked and loaded if we want to do. But we didn't need the help. And to a certain extent, I asked them, I didn't need the help, but I said, yeah, we'd love to have you help because I wanted to see if they do it. And they, in all cases, they said, we don't want to get involved. And you know, the amazing thing is they use the Strait of Hormuz. We don't. We don't use it. We don't need it. We have a lot of oil. Well, wait a minute. Oh. And they use it. We don't. And you would have thought they would have said, we would love to help you. But they didn't, which I think was a very... And Germany, I mean, he's doing a terrible job. He's got immigration problems. He's got energy problems. He's got problems of all kinds. And he's got a big problem with Ukraine because they're in that mess. And he criticized me for doing the whole thing with Iran. But I said, would you like to have a nuclear weapon in the hands of Iran? He said, no, I don't. I said, well, then I guess I'm right. He didn't have any answer to that. The bottom line is for this world, for our country, but certainly for Israel, the Middle East, and Europe, much closer, you cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And if you agree that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, which most people agree, almost everybody, it should have been done a long time ago. But if you agree they can't have a nuclear weapon, then what I did has been executed perfectly because our military has decimated them. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, two questions for you. Alina Shirazi from the Daily Mail. You have called this the new regime before in Iran, but I speak to Iranians on a daily basis, and they tell me that these are the same people that have murdered them, executed them, repressed them. I talked to them through the blackout, and they wanted me to ask you this question. And second of all, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, how come he's not involved in these conversations?
Oh, he's very much involved. Marco is he's negotiating with them all the time. You know, look, Iran killed 42,000 people over the last 2 months, protesters. They were going to kill 8 women whose lives I saved, and I appreciate that they didn't do it. I asked them not to do it. They didn't do it. They were getting ready to hang the women. They were going to hang 8 beautiful women that were... I mean, it just caught the imagination of a lot of people. People were talking about it. You know, it was inconceivable. You saw those 8 beautiful people, and they were going to be executed that evening. This was a week ago. And I got on the phone very quickly, and I said, don't do it, don't do it. The whole world is watching, don't do it. And they didn't do it. I appreciate it. I guess 4 were released, and the other 4 are going to be released in a month. They were ready to be executed that night. So they take a tough, you know, they knocked out the wrestler they killed. They killed the wrestler's teammates. He was a world champion wrestler, too. He was a great wrestler, great, talented wrestler. They killed him because he protested. He spoke. He wasn't wrestling. What he did is he spoke negatively about the regime, and they killed him. They executed him, along with his friends. They killed 42,000 people. So when you say about, they say that I do the same, I don't do the same. I'm trying to save that country in a certain way. And nobody's ever seen it. Think of it. They killed 42,000 innocent, not weapon-carrying people for protesting. 42,000. And the number they say is a lot higher than that. There's a rough group, but we have decimated them. And their economy is a disaster. So we'll see how long they hold out. We'll see.
President Trump, Saudi Arabia is pulling the plug on Live Golf. Once that tour is gone, do you think the PGA Tour should welcome the defectors back with open arms?
Well, I do. It's a great question. In fact, if I had time, I'd love to watch television today because the PGA Tour is playing at Doral, the Cadillac Championship. And I said, who's winning? I don't get a chance. I can't even look at it.
Jordan Spieth was in the lead earlier.
Who is?
Jordan Spieth.
Oh, that's good. He's good. Great guy. Good putter, to put it mildly, right? He's a very great guy. Chipper putter. No, it's they're at my tournament right now, the PGA. In 2 weeks, Liv is going to be at my course right here in the Potomac. No, I'd love to see Liv, but I do believe that all of the golfers should be playing, the great golfers should be playing against each other. I do believe, it's sort of, they were viewing something as a monopoly, but it's in a way, it should be the opposite of a monopoly. I want to see Rory playing Bryson DeChambeau. I want to see Big John Rahm playing Scotty, who's so great, right? Scotty Scheffler is great. And I want to see him play John Rahm and Bryson and all the different guys. They have great players on the Live. But it's almost like people want to see that. That's why the Masters was so good, because you saw everybody together. Patrick Reed played great. He's on Live and he played great. And they all did. They all played. They're great players. I play with them. They're very good. When I think I'm a good player and then I play with them, I don't think I'm that good. But there's something nice about all of the players playing together. Now they'll all be accepted by the tour. There's no question, because they're great. If they weren't, the tour really will. The tour wants to have the best player. You can't have the best player that they're boycotting. Now they may do something, a little bit, but they'll all be back on tour and it'll be great. And having one tour. Now I don't know that what's happening with Liv. I'm not sure what's happening with Liv, but they are playing in my course 2 weeks on the Potomac, beautiful course. But right now they're playing at Doral, which I own. And if we end this early, I'll be able to watch for about 3 minutes before I get back onto the economy and every other subject that we have, including Iran. We're doing so well with Iran, so I think so.
I just want to follow up.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. Question on clarification of the Trump IRAs versus a regular IRA.
Right.
Does it come down to the difference of a federal match? Who would qualify for that? And secondly, do you have any reaction to Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell staying on the Board of Governors?